Here we go. Happy Friday, MFFLs. Welcome into Mavericks Today. Harrison Graham, Jeffrey Cooperstein. We are live here on the channel because the Dallas Mavericks are going to the NBA Finals. What a time to be alive as, man, I can believe it, but I can't believe it at the same time.
That's where I'm at. I mean, I can believe it because the Mavs have Luka, plain and simple. I can't believe it because just 4 months ago, we were wondering if this team was even going to make the playoffs. So it's been a very dramatic turnaround from even as short as January of 2024. And the fact that this team's going to be playing in June against the Boston Celtics to try to go win Larry O'Brien is something I did not think I would be saying at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean, we had optimism about this team. You know, I think our goal was 50 wins and get to the second round. They won 50, and they have surpassed the playoff expectations, no doubt about it. So appreciate everybody for hanging out. Shout out your city. Let us know where you guys are tuning in from. If you're international, shout out your country. Nath, and is this due to that CT, whatever his name is last night? I don't even know what that was all about last night.
Could be.
But
Maya's.
Yeah, I didn't even know what was happening there. Shout out Omar's Burner who's hanging out. We got Navman and Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Wasim, one of our Bears.
What's up?
Wasim, we're going to talk Bears OTAs, winners and losers here in a little bit. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. Omar's Burner is still at Brandon Ayuk's house. Trying to kidnap him.
Tony Fuentes, Noah Turner, all real ones who joined us for our watch parties. Luka Longballs, 93 Navman as well.
Got Luka in Longview. Sam in Lithuania. What time do you think the team flew back today?
They flew back last night.
Really?
Yeah.
Confirmed?
Confirmed.
Okay. Are you surprised by that?
No. It's a 2-hour flight.
So they probably found a late night club to finish the night at. Silly.
Yeah, they were probably closed by the time they got here. But maybe they stayed open for the match.
Somewhat open.
Hopefully they stayed open.
Maybe they found a hotel or something. Who knows? JC in Paris, Texas. Appreciate that, Maya. Appreciate that. Tony in Glendale. Did you move, Tony?
Tony, you moved? Or you're out there for vacation? Or?
Yeah. Thought you were in DFW somewhere. All right, Tony.
Omari, that sounds good. Just make sure you DM me your info and whatnot. We'll get that sorted out.
We'll get it situated in the near future. Navman says, did you see where the coach took Luka's beer?
Yes, Finley.
I didn't see where he
Luka and his dad were having a beer in
the
locker room.
I saw Finley took it.
Yeah.
Is he saying where he took it or just that?
No, he's saying, did you see it?
Oh, yeah, we saw it. Yeah.
That was pretty funny.
I think and by the way, it's because he had to go do media. He definitely had some beers last night.
Yeah, he had a couple brews. Noah, do you think Jason Kidd's job is safe now?
Yes. Yeah. It's been safe.
I don't think it was. I think the second they made the playoffs, it was safe.
Yeah. He's secure.
They just signed him to an extension.
Yeah, he's going to be here. Who you guys got in the finals? DAL for the Mavericks, BOS for the Boston Celtics. Who wins the NBA Finals? Coop and I will have our official predictions later on in the stream. So
we'll have to do it like we did last series.
Yeah, 3, 2, 1.
Yep.
We will.
I'll give you a hint, though. I'm going to type my DAL for the Mavs.
I am too.
There you go.
I'm picking the Mavericks, but I will hold out until how many games it's going to be.
Yes, indeed.
Tony says Dallas. Wasim, Jared, Pura, Noah all saying Dallas.
It's going to be a hell of a series.
I can't wait, man.
The fact that we have to wait a whole week for this is a joke. I mean, I wish this started
That
on
was
Sunday.
one nice thing about the Mavs series going to 5, because now 6 days is much more manageable than 9 or 8.
Celtics had to wait 9, yeah.
But I don't know. It's 4 days would be better. Like I'm glad it's not like, okay, they finish and 2 days later they're playing, but almost a week is tough. So, like a Tuesday night start would have been nice.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, chill out over the weekend, but gives Luka to really rest up that knee. I think he's slowly been getting healthy throughout the playoffs as he's been managing that. And then, you'd think Maxey would be closer to 100%. I don't think he'll be 100%, but he'll be closer. Obviously, Kristaps Porzingis on the other side as well. Derek Lively. So
JC Two Turn says Mavs in 6. Maya says Mavs in 7. Shout out Michael as well.
The good thing about the Mavs is if this did go 7, they're not going to be intimidated by Game 7 on the road.
Not at all.
They're a great road team. They've proven that in the postseason. Crazy stat: the Mavs, Rangers, and Stars are 25-4 in their last 29 road games. That's an outrageous statistic.
It is.
I mean, it really is. It really is.
That man said Jason Kidd is a masterclass coach. I doubted it early on, but he's a big reason here they are. Absolutely. He deserves his credit.
I mean, I think he is an elite defensive coach.
Yes.
I will absolutely say that. I think at times there are things he does that frustrates me, but
me too.
You can't really complain. And he's gotten a guy like Kyrie to just really recommit himself to not only being a great player, he's been that, but being a leader again. I think he lost some of that the last few years in Boston and certainly in Brooklyn. And I mean, getting Luka and Kyrie to play defense at a high level, I mean, I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. This team is tight. The bond is there. I think you got to give him credit for that. So, yeah, I mean, I think Jason Kidd has earned a lot of love throughout this playoff run.
100%. I mean, the people were calling for his job multiple times throughout the season, and the fact that this team won 50 games, they ended up as the 5 seed in the postseason, and the run that they've had to go on to get to the finals here is remarkable. So he deserves a lot of credit, as obviously do the players. But shout out to Jason Kidd. He's dealt with a lot, and I'm glad he's here.
Yeah, no question about it. If you love the Mavs, hit that like button. Appreciate all 50 or so tuning in here on a Friday. We thought it would just be a good opportunity to talk some ball, get you ready for the NBA Finals, and take a look at some key matchups, some storylines as well. As there's a lot to discuss for this series. Fellow Mavs fan Sam Brown, did you get yourself a ticket?
I was so close. I'm still refreshing. Ticketmaster is my friend today. $750 was the cheapest before fees. I was so close, dude. I'm telling you.
You didn't pull the trigger though?
Well, no. I'm saying I couldn't beat whoever got it.
Oh, okay.
I saw it. I jumped right in and still didn't lock him down in time.
You're still jockeying.
I'm still jockeying.
Will you pull the trigger on $750?
I think if it's under 4 figures, I might just send it.
With fees or without? Like total?
All included.
All included. Total. Yeah, I mean
Don't blame him.
Seems like a good value
anything
play.
For the boys now.
You're a value play guy.
Yep.
You're a value play guy.
Don't mind me. I'll be refreshing.
Noah says, "Am I going to a finals game?" That's the plan. We'll see what Big Coop has in store as far as tickets go.
Yeah.
TBD.
What would you percentages? And how many would it be? Just one?
One.
Game?
Yeah.
What would you say percentages?
That I go?
Yeah. Like that you're able 50-50 or higher?
Yeah.
50-50?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the finals. Celtics, too.
My stepmom will have one of the games. Someone else will have probably one, so we'll see what happens. Noah's watching from Mexico right now. You on the beach?
Yeah, what's up, Noah? Let's go. Oh, man. What a time to be alive. Hit that like button.
Crazy.
Hit that like button. The finals are set, as it is the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics. So coming up on the show. Oh, by the way, hashtag Mavs. Start loading up your questions. Hashtag Mavs or Super Chat to get your questions in. And by the way, we'll throw a little bonus here. We're going to do another jersey raffle for the finals, $10 entries. Any $10 ones that come through today will get into that raffle. We'll start that today. So $10 Super Chats, you get into the jersey raffle. That'll take place throughout the NBA Finals. So keep that in mind. Hashtag Bears. I host our Bears channel. Hashtag Mavs or Super Chat to get your questions in.
You're programmed.
I'm programmed. It's I got to be honest, Coop. I was up pretty late just basking in the glory last night.
Yeah, I fell asleep at about 1.
That's about maybe 1:30. I was just catching up on all the Twitter stuff. By the way, everyone thinks I don't think Luka was going at Snoop.
It wasn't.
It was not Snoop.
Yeah, it was at a fan.
Yeah, it was at a fan, but that was.
I wish it was Snoop though.
I love Snoop. I'm a Snoop guy. Are you not a Snoop guy?
No, he's cool. I just think it would have been funnier.
Yeah. It was funny, though, because it was a guy right behind Snoop, and Snoop was just laughing.
Yeah, Snoop was like, man, this guy is something else.
This guy is unbelievable. Paul says Harrison and Coop versus Allie and Smitty this coming Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
For the next 3 weeks, Paul. next 3 weeks.
Paul is a Boston Celtics Today fan.
Okay, Paul. There's been some rumors of a pre-finals simulcast stream. We'll see if that's in the works. Coop and I might do another live show maybe Tuesday as well.
Possibly.
Could be a day where we delve into that. So if you guys have fun today, if you guys want that, maybe we can make that happen. All right, here we go. We're going to get into our finals preview. We'll take some questions. Again, hashtag Mavs or Super Chat to get your questions in. And then we will kind of take a different look at the finals, get into some deeper storylines because there's a lot of them. So here we go. Happy Friday, Mavericks Today. Here comes our finals preview. The 2024 NBA Finals are set as your Dallas Mavericks will take on the Boston Celtics. Game 1 on Thursday night at TD Garden in Boston. 7:30 Central Time. That'll be the tip-off time for every game except for the 2 Sunday games, including Game 2. That'll be at 7 o'clock Central Time. Mavs took down the T-Wolves in 5. Celtics took down the Pacers in a sweep. And the stage is set. We're going to get into a full preview here, but first, who you got? Type DAL for the Mavericks, BOS for the Boston Celtics, as Harrison Graham and Jeffrey Cooperstein are here to get you ready for the finals. Let us know who you got winning. And here is the schedule, Coop, as every game has 2 days between it, except between games 3 and 4. That would be Wednesday the 12th and Friday the 14th. Besides that, though, there's going to be 2 days between each game as the NBA looks to milk this final series every year.
Yeah, they love to drag these things out. I wish they could play every other day in the same city. And 2 days off between traveling cities is all right, but you would wish it would be every other day because after it just makes like losing and winning feel so much better or worse. If you lose and you have 2 days off before the next game, you're just like, I want to get to this right now. And then if you win, you kind of want to get back to it to try to go win another game. So, but this is the schedule. The schedule will not change, and they'll be tipping the ball off about 7:30 Eastern time on Thursday. I cannot wait. I can't believe we're here. The Mavericks going to TD Garden. There's so many storylines which we'll get into as well, but it's going to be a very, very exciting series.
You look at the Celtics kind of rotation at this point. It's these 9 players, and it's really 7, and then Hauser and Tillman kind of play here and there, but. Look, one of the best starting 5s in the NBA. There's no question about it. All 5 of these players, you could argue, are all-star caliber.
Yep.
Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they've been together for a while now. People thought they should split them up, and here they are back in the finals. They've, proven some people wrong, but they really want to finish the deal and justify keeping that pairing together. Big thing to watch here, Coop, is Kristaps Porzingis, former Mav. What's his status going to be? He has not played since Game 4 of the opening round with a calf strain, which means he's had about 5 weeks off now.
Yeah, thereabout.
I think he's going to play, but who knows? We know KP. He tends to take longer on these injuries.
Yeah, it sounds like Joe Mazzulla said that he's progressing well and there hasn't been a setback, but does that mean he's going to play in Game 1 of the finals?
I don't know.
I mean, like you said, it is Porzingis, and we all know the history that's there with him. I want to see him play because I want to see the Mavs, beat the Celtics at their best, and it would be a great storyline if he did end up playing, and he's been very good for the Celtics team this year, playing at the 5. When he's out there, they play a lot of 5 out, and they really spread the floor, and that's why they're so hard to beat and why they won 64 games. Definitely something to monitor throughout, and if anything happens between now and Thursday, Game 1, we'll keep you up to date on the Porzingis status, but if I had to guess right now, I think he's missing Game 1, at least. But I do think he'll play at some point in this series.
Yeah, and look, I think his status could be the difference in this series, potentially.
Could be.
And we'll talk about, some of the matchups and everything like that as we break that down in this preview. And coming up, we'll get to some keys to victory for the Dallas Mavericks to take down Boston in the NBA Finals. So stay tuned as we get you ready for that. But first, we do got to shout out our sponsor here on the show. That is Prize Picks. They've been with us throughout the entire NBA playoffs. They're going to stick with us in the NBA Finals as well. We appreciate them. Daily Fantasy made easy at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get a deposit match up to $100. You choose more or less on the stat projections that Prize Picks offers, and if you connect, you win some money. The NBA Finals are set, so get in on all of the action. We got a little 3-player game 1 play here. More than 6 rebounds for Daniel Gafford. I thought his last 2 games of the T-Wolves series were arguably the 2 best games he's played in the playoffs. He's been fantastic. More on Derek White's points, 14.5. We're going to go less on Jayson Tatum, 27.5 points. That's one play we like. We'll certainly cook up some others as well. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get that deposit match up to $100 for first-time customers. That link will be in the comments and in the description. Choose more, choose less. It's PrizePicks 2 to 6 player entries. You can play other sports too. Baseball, hockey, tons of others.
Esports.
Check it out. Esports. Ramp it up here in June. Okay, let's get to some keys to victory. I think this first one, this ties into Porzingis' status, Coop. Use the pick and roll to your advantage. The Celtics, statistically, are the worst pick and roll defense up to this point in the playoffs among postseason teams. Al Horford is still a good player at his age, but he does not move like he used to.
No.
If you can get him to switch fairly consistently onto Luka or Kyrie, you got to like your chances there. Plus, he's just not a top-tier rim protector anymore. So if Luka can continue to get defenders in jail, and what that means is where they get stuck behind him or on his hip, he's going to force Al Horford to make a decision. And if he crashes on Luka, he's going to throw that lob. If he doesn't, Luka could shoot the floater over the top, or he can find a shooter in the corner. If he could pick apart Rudy Gobert, I think you could do the same with Al Horford. The statistics bear that out. And Luka, I think, has really emerged as the best half-court general in the NBA. I think that's been true for a little while, but I think people have seen that on display here in this playoffs. I think that's a clear area to attack.
Absolutely.
That's what the Mavs do anyway, but I think based on personnel in this series, Coop, you can really exploit that advantage.
Yeah, we saw it in the Timberwolves series as well. It really doesn't matter how you defend the Mavs on the pick and roll. They kind of find a way to beat whatever coverage. If you're in drop coverage, Luka's going to get around the screen and take a 3. If you're going to trap him, he'll throw it to Lively or Gafford. It'll be a 4-on-3 at the nail. They just have so many different ways to beat you from that pick and roll. It could be a drive and kick to either P.J. Washington or Derek Jones as well. The Mavs need to take advantage of this if they're going to win this series. Like you said, Al Horford, not a guy that can move out on the perimeter. Porzingis, the Mavs really should test that calf and see how healthy he really is. Try to get him out there in space as well. If the Mavs can get them out there in space on the offensive end, they'll be able to score, I think, pretty much at will.
Next is P.J. Washington and Derek Jones Jr. elevate their game, especially offensively. I didn't think P.J. had his best offensive series against Minnesota. He hit some timely shots, but he didn't have a super efficient series. Jones is kind of hit and miss, had a couple really good games, couple kind of duds offensively. You don't really expect him to be great every night offensively. You kind of take what you can get from him. But I think especially Washington on the offensive end, Coop, I think if you're Boston, especially in those pick-and-roll situations, you'll kind of allow Washington to be open on the weak side and force him to make shots because he didn't do it consistently against Minnesota. He did do it in the second round against Oklahoma City. So if I'm Boston, I'm kind of willing to give Washington some looks early on in the series to see if he's able to knock him down. So if those two shots are making shots at a fairly consistent clip, I'm not even talking 40+%. Give me 35% from 3. That's going to be advantage Dallas because then Boston has to respect that out there, and that just widens the lane in the slashing attacks for Luka and Kyrie.
I think you made a really good point. Like, they're probably going to give P.J. Washington that open shot.
At least at first, right?
Until he proves that he can make it with some sort of consistency because obviously Luka and Kyrie are the two big problems there on offense. And yeah, Derek Jones and PJ have both had their moments in the postseason, but this is a different level now. I mean, this is the finals. This is the series where you have to play your absolute best basketball. So hopefully those two can elevate their games and be significant role players in this series. By the way, before we move on to the next one, I thought it was funny. I don't know if you saw it. PJ Washington went on IG Live last night. And Tyler Hero made a comment and said, "From Charlotte to the finals, how'd you get so lucky?" It was pretty funny. So BJ's been a huge part of this team, and I still think he will be in this final series as well.
From DC to the finals, Daniel Gaff.
Shout out Gaff as well, yes sir.
The two guys they brought in were playing for laughing stocks, and 2.5 months later, or I guess 3.5 months now.
We're in June.
They're in the finals.
Let's go.
It's incredible. This one's kind of obvious. This is always true for the most part in these series. Your stars have to play better than theirs. That was very clear in the last round.
In 4 out of 5 games.
The one game they didn't, they lost. So
by 5.
That's how it goes. So yeah, I mean, Kyrie and Luka need to be better than Tatum and Brown. It's as simple as that. I mean, I think Luka's the best player in this series. I would give Tatum the advantage, although he hasn't been awesome in the playoffs. I don't really know how to gauge a lot of the Celtics' play so far in the postseason because they just haven't been tested that much. But I do think that if Kyrie is at least that third guy out of the 4, you're going to be in a good position because I would be pretty surprised if Luka didn't have the best series out of the 4. Now, it's not a guarantee. He's got to go out there and do it, but I feel like he really started to get healthy this last series, and now he's got 6 more days. Like, sure, no one's 100% this year, but I think this will be the healthiest he's been since before that
100%.
knee sprain occurred in, Game 3 against the Clippers. I feel good about him having a big series. Kyrie's got to not necessarily match him, but he's got to be a legitimate running mate like he was for most of the Minnesota series.
And it'll be fascinating to see those first 2 games, how Kyrie plays in Boston. You know there is no love lost between those two.
I expect him to get booed every time he touches the ball.
Absolutely. It's going to be a hostile environment over there in Boston. I think Kyrie will respond just fine, but it seems very simple, but it is true. If your stars outplay theirs, you have a better chance to win, plain and simple.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the next one, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for 28,000 subscribers on the channel. We're going to be doing watch parties all throughout the NBA Finals, hopefully having a championship celebration here as well. So please subscribe and join the ride with us if you have not already.
Next up, get help from the bench. Obviously, that starts with Derek Lively, who was a perfect 16 of 16 in the last round, which is just ridiculous. He should be full throttle with these 6 days off as well after that neck sprain. After Lively, who are you looking at most to contribute off the bench? I think the caught in the moment you would say Jaden Hardy, but I think it's got to be Josh Green.
I think it's got to be Josh Green, and I think it's got to be Maxey as well. I think both of those 2 guys have to be willing to knock down open shots because they will get them. As we talked about in the pick and roll earlier, they're going to have open shots on the perimeter. So those 2 guys have got to find a way to knock down something and give you contributions. I thought Green was pretty good in Game 5 against Minnesota, and I think that Maxey is trying to find his footing here a little bit. He's obviously not 100% healthy, but he does provide you defense, and he provides you shooting when he's confident. Hopefully he can find some of that confidence with the full week off, maybe get close to 85% if possible. And I think those are the 2 guys that you're going to need to look at because you can't get away with playing 6 players in the finals.
No, it was nice to see Maxey see one go in. You're going to play more. Green's going to be in this rotation. I don't think there's any question. The question is, for me, do they give Tim Hardaway Jr. a look in this series? Because he kind of randomly just was not in the rotation.
Last 3 games.
I don't remember anything glaring happening in the last game he played. I mean, he didn't do anything.
I thought he actually played decent. He didn't even take a shot, and he had 4 rebounds.
Yeah.
He made some winning plays. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it's Jaden Hardy or if he goes back to Hardaway. I would lean Hardy at this point.
I think you start with Hardy, and, the moment's not too big for this.
No,
There's no question about that. It doesn't mean he's going to perform, but he is not lacking confidence. So I think for now, Tim's on the outside looking into the rotation, but got to stay ready. He's a vet who's playing a lot of big games, so it wouldn't surprise me if at some point he got a look.
And that kind of ties into my final key here to victory is don't get caught in the moment. I know a lot of the Mavs really haven't been in this moment before. I mean, Luka's played in some big games overseas. Kyrie obviously has won a championship. You have veterans like Markieff Morris, but he's not in the rotation. So just make sure that your eyes don't get too big and you just stay within yourself and stay within your role and go out there and play basketball, man.
And I trust this team to do it. I mean, Derek Lively hasn't been phased at all. I mean, if anything, his game is elevated in the playoffs, which has been fun to watch. Daniel Gafford's never been on competitive teams before. He's come in here and has not. He had a couple shaky moments earlier on in the playoffs, but I think he's really found his footing. Jaden Hardy, we mentioned, he's coming there and giving you some good minutes. So I trust this team to play well. That doesn't mean there aren't going to be, poor moments in the finals. We know how this goes. It's a game of runs. That's just the sport. But
and I'll say, I know I say this every series. You're playing the best team in the NBA now. I mean, they had 64 wins and they won the Eastern Conference. So it is not going to be easy.
No.
But I do believe that if the Mavericks can play their game and they kind of take care of all these keys, they have a hell of a chance to be lifting Larry O'Brien.
No doubt about it. What is your biggest key to victory? against the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals. Let us know what it is for you. And we'll do what we did last series. We'll count down from 3, and we'll make our prediction. We both picked the Wolves to lose in 7, the Mavs to win in 7. They won in 5, 1 and 6 the first 2 rounds. So, Coop, on go. We will announce who we are picking. 3, 2, 1,
Mavs
go.
in 6.
Mavs in 5.
Wow.
I'm going to go Mavs in 5.
Okay.
I really do think Luka's ready for this. I trust Dallas to at least get a split in the first 2 games.
I think they will get a split.
They're so good on the road. I just think they will get a split. Maybe I'm reaching a bit. I do respect Boston.
I love it.
I don't think this is a bad Boston team at all. I think we have overplayed a little bit how just easy their run has been. I mean, it's not their fault that they have faced, but I think also what comes with that is they haven't really been tested, and I don't really buy these. Well, they found a way to win these tight games against Indiana. I mean, Indiana choked. Indiana loses in the first round against any team that made the Western Conference playoffs. I'm sorry. That's just the reality of the situation. If the Knicks weren't beat to shit, they would have beaten Indiana in 5. We love Rick Carlisle, but that's just how I see it. I'm going to go Mavs in 5, man.
I love it.
I think if they get a split initially and win both at home, which they have not really done, but if they can do that this time, we know how they play in Game 5s historically, and we know how they play on the road. I think they could close that in Game 5 in Boston. So I'm going to go Mavs in 5. Maybe I eat my words, but and by the way, I don't think it'll be easy. I think there will be a lot of tight games, just like the Minnesota series until the last game. But I'm going to go Mavs in 5. Hit that subscribe button. We'll be here for all of it, previewing every single detail leading up to Game 1 on Thursday night. And, of course, we'll have live watch parties throughout the NBA Finals. Wasim.
Shout out Wasim.
He gets our first jersey raffle ticket of the Finals. He says, hey, Harrison and Coop, go Mavs. What do you think about the Celtics playing close games against overmatched teams? Is that a sign or Boston coasting? You know, I don't know what to make of it. I'm not going to overreact to it on either side of the spectrum.
Agreed.
I think the narrative of, they should have lost the series to Indiana is overblown. I also think they haven't really faced a team close to Dallas' standards yet. So I think both of those things are true. Boston has not played a high-leverage game in the playoffs, if we're being honest. Dallas has played, Game 5 and 6 of the first 2 rounds are high leverage. You could argue Game 2 of the first 2 rounds are high leverage. You don't want to go down 0-2. And then Minnesota, really just the first 2 games.
Yeah.
Once they went up 2-0, it wasn't that high leverage. But still, they've played at least a handful of high leverage games. The Celtics have played 0. So
I wish I would have mentioned this in our segment there, but where I really think the Mavs do have an edge is mentally, because they have been there. They've been tested in this postseason, and I think they just have the guys that have kind of gone to war, and they know what it's going to take.
Well, and I think an underrated part of this too, Coop, and we talked about this late in the regular season, they've been in playoff mode for a while because they scratched and clawed their way out of the play-in tournament. Yep. So, like, the last month of the regular season, they were grinding to get into the top 6, playing heavy minutes. So they've been in this mode for a while now, and I that's not taking anything away from Boston. You win 64 games, you're able to kind of coast late in the season, and with the way the East has played out, they haven't had to go probably balls to the wall, but they're going to have to find another gear to beat Dallas. Like,
absolutely,
if they play like they did against Indiana, they will not beat the Mavericks.
No, the Mavs are better than Indiana, plain and simple. So they will have to be on their A game. Mavs will have to be on their A game as well, and that's what'll make a great series.
Who do you think is better if both are at their best?
I think the Celtics are better.
You do?
I do.
I would say over the course of the season, I agree. I don't know if I agree.
In the 7-game series,
I don't know
different.
I don't know if I agree in this exact moment, because if these games are tight late, I will give Luka and the Mavs the advantage in half-court.
Oh, if it's a 5-point game with 5 minutes left, I'm picking the Mavs. Absolutely. I think they're the more battle-tested team. They're the tougher team.
So, We'll see. It'll be interesting.
Tony says, my last time Mavs won, I was a freshman in high school. Me too, Tony. So was I. We're the same age.
I guess that would have made me a junior in high school.
When did you graduate?
2012. So
Yep.
yeah, it was the
Going
summer
into your
before
senior
senior year. Yep. Hashtag Mavs or Super Chat to get your questions on the show. Get your questions in about this series or anything Mavs related. We'll get those questions answered. I don't know how many you got cooked up over there.
Yeah, we're good to go.
We got a few to work with. All right. Hashtag Mavs or Super Chat to get those questions in. You could also work Wasim's Super Chat in there as well if you want to. So, all right, here we go. Mailbag time, and then we'll have another segment after that as well. So keep it locked in here. It's time for a Mavericks Today mailbag as we are just days away from the NBA Finals against the Boston Celtics. He's Jeffrey Cooperstein. I am Harrison Graham. We're going to take all of your questions. Hashtag Mavs or Super Chat to get those questions answered here on Dallas Mavericks Today.
Tony is all of us. He says, I can't believe it. We're back. Worth the wait. It was a long 13 years, Tony. It sure was. You said you were a freshman in high school. I was too. I was a freshman at Flower Mound Marcus High School here in Texas, and I remember living and dying on every single play in that Mavs Heat series. I watched it in my bedroom away from everybody else. I can't wait for this series. It's going to be fun. It was a long time, but it is worth the wait.
Yeah, I mean, I was going into my senior year of high school. It was a heck of a series. The Game 2 comeback is an all-timer in the history of NBA Finals history. Now you're back 13 years later. It's exciting, and I think a very winnable. I'll say this, Coop. I actually think on paper this is more winnable than that series.
Yeah, they had the Avengers. They had LeBron, and they had Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh and Udonis Haslem, and all. They had a bunch of Hall of Famers on that team. The Mavs have a chance to win this series.
No question. Our good friend Omar Burner, he says, I think Maxey and PJ will split minutes. Gaff and Lively as well, or think that there will be a blend of Maxey and PJ together on the floor and vice versa. I do not think Maxey and PJ will split. I think if there's, 50 minutes between those two, PJ is going to get 35 of them. But I do think Maxey will play. And Gafford and Lively will probably split, and Lively might get a few more minutes. Yep. But, they're gonna play all 48. I think the last two games of the T-Wolves series proved that especially the last one when Maxey was back with Lively back, that they still played a traditional 5 at all times. I would expect that to continue. Now, maybe if the Celtics don't have Porzingis and they go to some small ball lineups, there might be a few minutes here and there where Kleba's in by himself at the 5. But I just think the impact that Lively and Gafford have had the last round and a half, 2 rounds, I expect one of them to be on the floor at all times.
Well, the thing with Maxey is he can't play north of 20 minutes. So you can't split him. I think his minutes are when Derek Jones and P.J. Washington are resting. Yeah. That's where you find his minutes. So it won't be a split there, but he does provide value there on the defensive end, so he'll absolutely get in. And like you said, I do think Gaff and Lively will split. Lively probably plays a little bit more than Gafford.
Yep. Hookah Doncic, he's going to be lighting that hookah in 3 weeks if they win the championship, or if they lose it too, he'll probably be doing it. If Luka wins the title, is he already the greatest Maverick of all time? You can't say that. I will say this. I think with a title, Luka is probably the best pure player in Mavericks history. I think in terms of just like what everything Dirk accomplished both statistically and just as the face of the franchise in 21 years, I'm not going to hand that to Luka after 6.
Agreed.
But I'll tell you this, I never thought Dirk could be topped in this franchise.
Window's open.
He wins this one, the window is absolutely open. Now, I do think he would have to win multiple to top Dirk just because there's something to be said for the first guy that wins you a title, a guy who plays all 21 years here, everything he did on and off the court, just like the relationship with the fan base. But the door is absolutely open for that to be a possibility, which even as recently as last year, I don't know if I would have said that.
I can't believe we're even having that discussion right now because Luka has been so good for this team. And I know Dirk has mentioned kind of throughout the season, does Luka come to you for advice and yada yada? And Dirk's like, well, no, not really. He's already better than I ever was. Yeah. Dirk can even admit that. But yeah, I don't think he is already the GOAT of the Mavericks if he wins this title. I think if he gets 2, the conversation begins, though, because Man, I mean, if he can do what Dirk could never and get the second title in less time than Dirk ever played for the team, I mean, you have to consider it, right?
Yeah, no question about it. Is Luka the greatest Maverick ever?
If they win.
If they win the championship. 77 for Luka, 41 for Dirk. Again, I would say not yet, but keyword yet. Like, that is definitely on the table if that happens. And I'll say this too, Coop. He's already number 2, even if he doesn't win this series. And from a pure skill standpoint, he is probably the best player to ever wear a Mavericks uniform.
There's a difference between best and greatest.
Exactly.
I think
it's kind of the Brady-Mahomes argument. Like, Mahomes is more talented and also wins a ton, but Brady won 7.
Yep.
So Pat's got to close that gap. It's kind of similar here. Like, Luka has a more complete game than Dirk, but what Dirk did for over 2 decades with one franchise, that's going to be tough to match in terms of a GOAT conversation. Shout out to Wasim. Appreciate the super chat. Hey, Harrison and Coop. Go Mavs. What do you think about the Celtics playing close games against overmatched teams? Is that a sign or Boston coasting? It could be a sign. It definitely could be coasting because Boston never has really been under pressure in these playoffs. I know in the first 2 rounds they lost game 2 at home and they went on the road 1-1, but you're talking about a Heat team without Jimmy Butler. That, to me, that's just no threat of an opponent. You're talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers, who didn't have Jared Allen, and they had a couple other guys banged up as well. And it's just the Cavs, who are have inferior talent compared to the Celtics. And then Indiana, who we love Rick Carlisle, nice story, Coop. I know there were some close games there, and Indiana probably should have won a couple of them, but it is still Indiana. Like, if Indiana was in the West, they would have lost in the first round to just about any of the top 10 teams in the West, in my opinion. So,
little bit of both.
I'm not taking anything away from the Celtics. You win 64 games, you're doing something right. I also don't think they're nearly as battle-tested as Dallas.
Yeah, I think that's where the Mavs do have an advantage, and we'll talk about those in just a second. But the Mavs have gone through the gauntlet here in the Western Conference playoffs. To win this West, by the way, that has like 12 probably really good teams in it, it is a remarkable feat, and I think the Mavs have kind of gone through it since March. It was those games in Sacramento where this thing really started when the Mavs ended up winning both of those.
Yep.
And they've been playing more or less playoff pressure games ever since then. So they've been through it, and I think they're ready to face their toughest test yet, which will be this Boston Celtics team.
No question. Noah Turner, what advantages and disadvantages do you think the Mavs have on the Celtics?
I think that I'll start with the disadvantage. I think the Celtics have more athletic bigs who can, well, maybe not athletic, but bigs who can stretch the floor out and shoot more, whereas the Mavs really don't have that. And that'll be a difficult thing to defend, especially if Porzingis is playing.
Yeah, I think if Porzingis plays, they have two fives that can play 5 out with. So, the Mavs haven't really faced that in the playoffs. I mean, a little bit with OKC because Chet can play out there, obviously, but not with the Clippers and certainly not with the T-Wolves, outside of when they played a Cat and Nas lineup together, which did happen some, but not consistently. I think the advantages they have, I think Dallas is unquestionably better in the half court.
Yep.
Celtics don't have a true floor general. Like, they'll play through Tatum some, they'll play through Brown. They have 3 or 4 guys they can play through, but they don't have a guy where you could say, hey, just go initiate a couple of different sets, a pick and roll, pick and pop type of set, some back screening, let Luka dictate. They don't really have that. So it really is going to be a chess match. I think these teams are, at this point in the season, are pretty evenly matched, which is why this is what the finals is.
And by the way, with the chess match, give me advantage Jason Kidd over Joe Mazzulla any day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing you know about Kidd is he's going to find answers defensively.
Yep.
There could be some challenges on the other end, but you don't need Kidd to be a masterclass offensively because you have Luka.
Exactly.
He can find the solutions for you. So, that's a valid point. MFFL Kev, how would you rank the best players in this series? Let's say Porzingis is healthy. I would go Luka 1, Tatum 2. I would lean Kyrie 3 over Brown. I'll say this. Brown has been pretty damn good in the playoffs, but again, you have to factor in who they've played. Brown 4. I'd go Porzingis 5. And then maybe Derek White or Drew Holiday 6 and 7.
And then get to Lively, Gafford, etc.
Lively, Washington. Washington, then you swing back to Boston. So, like, look, the Celtics starting 5 probably packs more punch. But if you have the 2 of the top 3 players, that kind of evens out. And I think Lively is easily the most impactful player off the bench in this series.
Yeah, because Sam Hauser or Peyton Pritchard, if Al Horford is on the bench, if Porzingis is back, he doesn't really
Horford's good,
he's good, but he
I would
doesn't
lean
fare as much
Lively.
as Lively. It's a very even series is kind of what I'm thinking as well. Yes, like you said, Mavs have 2 of the 3 best players, but Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown obviously are no slouches whatsoever.
No, so they've been through a lot of these series at this point.
These are teams with loaded rosters, frankly, and that is why they're here in the first week in June getting ready to play the finals.
Who do you guys think has the better roster in this series? Type C for the Celtics or M for the Mavericks? Let us know in the comment section below. And don't forget to join us. We'll be live for every single game starting on Thursday night for Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Mavericks versus Celtics. First 2 games in Boston, next 2 in Dallas, and then it'll go Boston, Dallas, Boston if it does go to 7 games. We'll be here for all of it. Hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications. We will have live coverage. Okay, Nick Roshkowski. Who does the Celtics put on, Luka, Brown, or Tatum? This will be interesting, Coop.
Very.
And I think, we'll definitely dive into some potential matchups and some different looks each team could show. Maybe that's early next week. But this is just a hunch. I think Tatum takes the Luka assignment initially.
Yep.
Because he's longer than Brown, and he's got enough upper body strength to at least hold his own. He's not as strong as Lou Dort, but he's thicker than McDaniels, so he's kind of in between those two. Like, he's almost as long as Jaden. He's not as big as Dort, but he's bigger than McDaniels, so I think Tatum will take that on initially. I think as far as Kyrie goes,
I think it's Drew Holiday.
I think it starts Holiday, but you'll see some Derek White there as well. But then whichever 2 are guarding those 2 initially will definitely get some time because you don't want Tatum, if you're Boston, guarding Luka for 40 minutes a night.
Absolutely.
I think you'll start him on Luka. You'll finish games with him on Luka in most games, I would guess. But Brown's going to get that job.
Derek White
and Drew Holiday at times might get that assignment. So I think Boston is not well equipped to stop Luka. No one is, but they do have the ability to throw some different guys in them. Where Minnesota, it was, they had to play Kyle Anderson because they were searching for answers. So I do think that is something that Luka's going to have to figure out 3 or 4 different guys where to attack their weaknesses.
Yeah, it'll be a fascinating matchup. I think you're right. I do think it's going to end up being Tatum to start and finish games, but what happens in the middle? And where does Luka decide he really wants to attack? If he gets the matchup with Brown, is that the one where he decides he wants to go downhill? Or even if it's Holiday, is that the one that he tries to attack as well? And don't get me wrong, Drew Holiday is one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, but like you said, I don't think any team's well equipped to stop Luka.
I also don't think Holiday will get on. They'll put him on Luka much. I think they'll use him more on Kyrie because I think we just saw if you're not strong, you can't stay with Luka.
Yeah,
and Holiday, as good as he is, he's long, he's athletic, he's not a thick defender. Like I think they'll use him on Kyrie much more significantly than Luka. Ghost of Red Auerbach. Kyrie was a joke for my Celtics, but it seemed like he's really matured in his time with the Mavs. Should be a great series. Kyrie said something pretty interesting after the Mavs beat the Timberwolves. I didn't even know this. He had mentioned, I think he was on with Scott Van Pelt of ESPN. He said that because Van Pelt asked him something similar, like, hey, you just seem like you're playing with more joy now. And he said that he had, maybe this has been documented, Coop, if not, I didn't know. He had lost, I think he said several people close to him in the last 3 or 4 years, and that impacted his joy for the game, which if you don't have joy, then your leadership's not going to be there.
Exactly.
Being a consistent good teammate's not going to be there. What did we talk about when they made for the trade? Is this guy going to be available? Well, if you're not enjoying the game, you're not going to rush back from injury. Yep. So, it just seems like he has found happiness again, and I think Jason Kidd deserves credit for that. I'm sure, people in his personal life deserve credit for that as well himself, just, finding, what makes him tick like we all do. We all have things that we want to chase and want to do that make us happy. So whatever that is for him, he seems to have found that both on and off the court, which has been paid volumes for the Mavericks because Has anyone changed a narrative around themselves as quickly as this guy has? I mean, I'm on the record for not standing this guy before he got here.
Absolutely.
I will admit it. I thought he was a fraud in Brooklyn. He was never available. And he comes here and he's a totally different guy. I think it just goes to show that people can evolve. People can mature. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. Like, there's a lot of shit people are dealing with that people don't know about. And these guys are in the spotlight 24/7. So it's easy for us to say things and be like, oh, this guy is, you can't trust him. He can't do that. Things change, man. And they are not even close to at this stage without him and his guidance and his leadership. I don't think there's any question about that.
A happy Kyrie is a firing Kyrie, and me and you both can't believe that. I don't think anyone in the world can believe that this trade worked out as well as it has. I mean, for the Mavs to be in the finals 13 months after this trade is frankly unbelievable, and if you would have told me that, I would have called you an insane person and you need to go seek help.
I mean, even if you told me, hey, this is going to be successful, I think it's gone beyond that. Like,
absolutely.
I think even the Mavs are probably a little
They're
surprised
like, oh my God,
at how much this has worked. That was definitely a calculated risk by Nico Harris.
I was going to say, credit to Nico, credit to Mark Cuban and Jason Kidd and all of the support staff at the Mavs who have kind of made this thing happen and made Kyrie comfortable here. It's worked great, man, and you're 4 wins away from doing something really, really, really special.
No doubt about it. Show some love to Kyrie. Get the 11s down in the chat. Hey, just life lesson. You can change, man. The perception can change, and it's not always appropriate to judge a book by its cover. You never know what is going on. But we can't wait for the NBA Finals. We hope you're with us every step of the way. Hit the subscribe button. It's youtube.com/MavsTV. Mavs Celtics Game 1 on Thursday night. All right, who's got the better roster? C for the Celtics, M for the Mavericks. What say you?
Navman says, how much pressure do you think this puts on the Cowboys with playoff success in Dallas and other sports? Well, Navman, it should put pressure on them.
I mean, Dak Prescott straight up said it does. He said, bring us more pressure. Maybe that's what we need.
It should put pressure on them, Navman. Do I believe it will because Jerry Jones is an absolute bum? No, I don't. I don't think Jerry Jones cares.
That's a book I will judge by its cover. Is Jerry Jones.
Talk about it.
When you have billions, I don't feel bad.
That guy stinks. Time to give it up, Jerry.
Get back to the salt packets on your McGriddles. Shout out Hard Knocks for that one.
Thank you
for that.
Tony typing Mavericks. Wasim Mavericks. Noah says Celtics. Navman on paper, Celtics.
I think if you put
agree.
the whole roster together, you would lean Celtics, but I also think the Mavs have the better star duo.
Slane says, if KP returns for the finals, should we expect a compromised version of him or a compromised version of him similar to Kawhi in the first round?
I don't think he would come back. Kawhi was not right.
Kawhi had a serious
he was so bad,
injury.
They took him out.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't even go back to him.
So I don't think he'll be as bad as Kawhi, but will he be 100%?
Probably not.
Here's the reason I'll say he'll be close to 100%. KP doesn't play if he's not close to 100%.
True.
He doesn't. So.
Now, maybe that's different now that it's the NBA Finals.
Could be.
But
this is his first trip to the finals as well.
Tony says we go live again on Tuesday. 50-50. We might.
Yeah, TBD.
We might do that. But we appreciate y'all tuning in today. We got one more segment here. What do we got? 5 storylines for the finals?
That is correct.
5 storylines to follow for the NBA Finals. And, I mean, I thought it was pretty interesting that Stephen A. Smith, Coop, called this the most exciting finals matchup maybe of his lifetime.
Not sure I can agree with that.
I don't know if I'd agree, but, I think there's some legs to what he's saying with the amount of different narratives and storyline. I mean, the Celtics are in the final, and no one knows if their coach is any good. I'm just saying, seriously,
right.
There's so many things to dive into here.
The Celtics, I don't want to keep shitting on the Celtics, but they do not feel like a team that is a finals team.
They won 64 games.
I know.
So it's
I think they're the worst 64-win team ever.
Well, we're about to find out if that's true or false.
I guess we will. I don't trust this team. And Smitty, if you're watching, your team stinks. But It just feels to me like there's something missing from the Celtics team, and I don't know what it is. I'll fully admit this. I felt that same way about Denver last year. There's just something missing, and I don't know what it is.
Well, I hope you're wrong because that Denver team coasted in the finals.
They did. They absolutely did.
All right, let's get to our final segment
Here we go.
Appreciate you guys tuning in on a Friday. Coming up here on Dallas Mavericks today, Harrison Graham, Jeffrey Cooperstein. We're going to dive into the 5 biggest storylines of the 2024 NBA Finals as the Dallas Mavericks are set to take on the Boston Celtics. A lot of narratives, a lot of storylines that we're going to dive into here. But first, let us know who you got in this series. DAL for the Mavericks, BOS for the Boston Celtics. Give us your votes down in the comment section down below. And if you missed our initial preview video, go ahead and check that out. It's going to be on the feed of the channel. All right, Coop, first storyline. I think it's got to lead off with this one.
Absolutely.
Kyrie's return to Boston. Obviously, he's played against the Celtics since leaving, but not on a stage like this in the NBA Finals.
It is going to get chippy there at the TD Garden in Boston, Mass. I fully expect him to be booed every single time he touches the ball.
At least early on in these games. We'll see if the crowd keeps it up for 4 quarters.
It's going to be very, very hostile. I know there was at least one time where Kyrie flipped off the crowd in Boston. So we'll see if something like that comes to fruition. But this is obviously the biggest storyline for me. I think it'll be the biggest storyline for everyone here heading into this finals team, and we'll see how Kyrie responds. I think he's going to respond pretty damn well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think pressure phases him. This is a guy who's been a part of a championship coming back from 3-1 down. He seems to have found his happiness and just confidence in his game and leadership the last 12 months with the Dallas Mavericks. So I don't think he'll be phased. I mean, he'll obviously hear it. It's going to be loud. But I also think he's gonna like playing in that type of environment. I mean, there's nothing like playing for a championship in professional sports. I mean, there's all, fans are rocking, players are chirping. It's going to be a fun environment. And by the way, a lot of those core pieces are still on that team, especially with Tatum and Brown. They were there when Kyrie was on that team. So,
yes, they were.
That part of it's interesting as well. Number 2, Porzingis, if he's healthy, returns to Dallas. This one's not quite the level of Kyrie returning back to Boston, but it's certainly interesting. Him and Luka, just while they had some good moments, and it looked like before his injury in the bubble, this could be the next great duo in the NBA, but had another injury, and just after that, it just never was the same.
I'm pretty sure Porzingis has never played in Dallas, by the way, since he's been traded because
injuries.
He was hurt in the previous game here against the Celtics this year, and I believe the year before with the Wizards as well.
Yeah, and I just, things ended weird, right? Like, I think him and Luka were cordial at the end that first year with Jason Kidd, but him and Carlisle flamed out. Him and Luka the year prior definitely were not getting along.
They were at odds, and what's funny is they were at odds with each other, and then at the end, they both just couldn't stand Rick Carlisle, so they kind of bonded over that.
Yeah, which is...
It was fascinating. But no, I think these two guys coming back to their respective cities will be huge storylines. And lest we forget, Harrison, not only was Kyrie a Celtic, Dwight Powell was also a Celtic.
Yes.
As the Mavericks traded for Dwight Powell in the Rajon Rondo trade back in December 2014.
Hopefully that man does not play in this series.
Yes.
I love you, Dwight, but
definitely.
Hopefully he does
no,
not.
But I think the theme is that the crowds are going to be hostile. I think especially in Boston. I'm not saying the Mavs don't have a good crowd, but boy, that reception for Kyrie will be crazy. And I kind of can't wait to see what TD Garden has to say about it.
It's going to be incredible. It's going to be fun. And I think the Mavs, the beauty of them in this series, it's not that they're, look, I think sometimes the pressure's not on us, it's on them. I mean, you still have a chance to win a goddamn title. There's plenty of pressure. But I do think there is more pressure on Boston.
I do too.
I don't think there's any question. Like, Joe Mazzulla, people still don't know if he can coach or not. I think this Tatum-Brown pairing has obviously had a lot of success, but it hasn't had the ultimate success yet, and we're, 7 years into that pairing? A guy like Al Horford, this might be his last chance. The pressure is on Boston to win this series. Now, there's no guarantee this Mavs team gets back, but Boston, if it doesn't work now, especially if they get beaten 5 or 6 games, they're going to be looking at this like, I don't know if this is going to work with the way this team is built.
Yeah, for me, it just feels like I said, Boston has underachieved for a few years now, where the Mavs, this is the first iteration of them really contending. Yes, they made it to the conference finals in 2022, but no one really expected them to win that series, and here they are now, first time in the finals in 13 years. House money may be a little bit too on one side of the spectrum, but it feels to me that if Boston doesn't win, the sky is falling, whereas if the Mavs don't win, it's like, it's disappointing, but I think they expect to be back here in the future.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Dallas, like, in some ways, like, they're still kind of learning how to play together. Yep. I mean, like, two of their key guys got here 3 months ago. Like, this is the first full year with Kyrie and Luka. Like, Kyrie's a little older, but his game isn't one that can't age nicely. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's pressure on both, but Boston really, like, needs to deliver, it feels like, to kind of justify, keeping this pairing together and kind of just staying the course like they have for the last several years. And, by the way, things did end ugly with Kyrie. They moved on from him. So if that guy beats you, it's just kind of like, I don't know, man. Boston, it's going to be interesting. Which team do you guys think has more pressure? M for the Mavs, C for the Celtics? I think it's pretty clearly the Celtics, although to act like it's pressure-free in Dallas is certainly not the case.
Yeah, I'd agree. Definitely the pressure is on the Celtics. There is pressure to win, like you said. It's the NBA Finals, for the Mavericks. But I think they should have the mindset of, not you're happy to be here, but hey, we got here. Let's just go win the whole thing now.
Yeah, exactly. Prize Picks, if you want to get in on the action during the NBA Finals, play the best daily fantasy sports app out there. That is Prize Picks. 5 million active users and counting. You guys should be one of them. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS. Get a deposit match up to $100. The way it works is simple. You set lineups, 2 to 6 player entries. You got the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball, esports, and a whole lot more. You can cross over sports with your pick, or you can keep your pick all within the same game like we have for Game 1. 3-player entry here. More than 6 rebounds for Daniel Gafford. He's really ramped up the rebounding the last few games, so we like that number. More on Derek White points, 14.5, and less on Jayson Tatum points, 27.5. 10 to win 50 on this Game 1 3-player entry. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS to get that deposit match up to $100 if you are a first-time Prize Picks customer. Check it out today. Prize Picks, link is in the comments and in the description. Number 4, can Luka cement himself as, I think, the best player in the world if he wins this series? You could make the argument he's gotten there, but I think at least heading into next year, he's that guy if you're able to take down the Boston Celtics here.
Absolutely. If he wins this series, I think he will be anointed the best player in the world over Jokic at this point, and I think he'll be certifiably among one of the top 30 greatest players of all time already through year 6. Is that something crazy to say?
No, I mean, look, if they win it all this year and he's Finals MVP as well, let's say he gets that. I mean, I think you look at his accomplishments. 5-time All-NBA. The only thing he'd be lacking is an MVP, which I still think he had a great case this year. But that's neither here nor there. He'd have a Finals. He'd have a Finals MVP. He'd have a second trip to the Western Conference Finals. He'd have multiple notable playoff game winners that will be playing on highlight reels forever. He'd have a EuroLeague champion or MVP, by the way, and title. Like, maybe top 30 is rich, but I think it's for sure top 50. Like, and for a guy 6 years into his career, that's pretty damn impressive.
All I know is this: when you look at the history of the NBA over the last 25 years or so, it is very rare that you win a title without a top 25 player of all time.
Yeah.
So. Am I calling Luka top 25 if they win? Maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but he's damn sure.
Well, I think it's also, too, you can project, like, even if he doesn't win another title, if he has 10 more great years, just rack up the stats, he's going to be top 25.
Yeah, he will.
So, like, I mean, if D. Wade is considered a top 25 player, Dwayne Wade's a great NBA player. Luka Doncic is a far superior basketball player. And if he gets an NBA championship, I mean, it's not even and he plays another decade, he will easily be a top 25 all time.
He's also not a crybaby stiff like Wade is, but that's neither here nor there. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. We'll be covering the Mavs all throughout the 2024 NBA Finals, of course, which starts on Thursday, June 6th. So please, we'll be live for every game here on the channel. Myself, Harrison. If I go to a game, we'll have someone else as well, but please be sure to join us. We have a lot of fun on these watch parties, so we can't do it without your guys' support.
Yeah, and on off days, we'll have videos as well. We might do some, post-game mailbags that go out as episodes and stuff like that. So keep it locked in here. We'll have content every single day. All right, fifth one here. Which duo outperforms the other? And, yeah, I think it's a fascinating discussion, the two different duos in terms of, what the talking points are. You already have people like – I can't remember who went on national TV and said that Luka and Kyrie is already the most talented backcourt in NBA history.
I saw that one as well.
Kyrie even shot it down. I was like, look, we got to win a title first.
Yeah, let's chill.
But I think when you just say talented, they're in the discussion. And then, again, we've said it a couple times here, Coop. This Tatum-Brown duo has been questioned at times. Boston has stayed the course with it. They paid Jaylen Brown the biggest contract in NBA history to keep this together. They're expected to outperform Luka and Kyrie. They are paid to do so. Luka and Kyrie have been together for about 15 months. Yep. So it's fascinating to see how this thing plays out. I'll just add a couple of other ones, too. Jason Kidd, I think he's gained a lot of fans in this run, but if he wins this series, I think he cements himself as one of the best coaches in the NBA right now. Joe Mazzulla, look, I don't know if he can coach. I really don't.
Which is crazy to say, considering they're in the finals.
I'm not saying the guy is awful, but if he got fired, would he for sure get a job? I don't know. I think Jason Kidd probably would, even though there are still questions about him.
The reason I didn't put that one on there is because I do think that's such a distinct advantage for the Mavericks in the coaching department. I think Kidd is the better coach. And hopefully that will show out in the finals, because if it comes down to it and it needs to be an X's and O's battle, I think I'm taking Jason Kidd.
Which has not always been something you would say. Look, the Mavs were just better than the Clippers, but how many times were we saying, what a play out of the timeout from Ty Lue? That's an X's and O's master. Yeah. I'm not terrified that Joe Mazzulla is going to slice and dice the Mavs out of timeouts.
Doesn't concern me.
I just don't see it.
Like I said, I don't know what it is, but there is something missing about this Celtics team.
It's they're just I don't know. They're just too boring.
They are. They won 64 games and they're boring.
I don't know. Maybe you need a Draymond to be entertaining. Who knows? What is the biggest storyline in the finals? What say you? Down in the comment section down below. There's a lot of good ones. There's ones we haven't even hit on, to be completely honest.
Which we will hit on later, so that's why you hit the subscribe button once again. We will have a video at least every single day throughout the finals and leading up to the finals as well. So please be sure to stay tuned with us, and we'll see you guys soon. I cannot wait. The finals are so close.
Get the MFFLs in the comments. We'll see you soon. All right, boys and girls.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in here on a Friday. Wasim, we got you down for a raffle ticket.
Appreciate you, Wasim.
To kick off our finals jersey raffle. Whoever wins will get a free Mavericks jersey. Appreciate that. Coop and I are going to go enjoy our weekend. We're going to publish some of these segments on the channel over the weekend, so if you want to kind of rehash some of the content, that will be available to all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe.
Let's go Mavs, baby.